My towel ultimately slid and landed softly on the floor in a heap. "Lily," he muttered, his voice filled with reverence, his gaze fixed on me. His fingertips stroked down my contours with such delicacy that it felt as if he was imprinting every feature on memory. This was how it all started. My name is Lily, and while it may sound egotistical, beauty has been a constant companion of mine. Even at 65, my voluptuous body, beautiful skin, and sparkling smile continue to attract attention. My thick gray hair falls in beautiful waves beyond my shoulders, and my honey brown eyes appear to hide a mystery that captivates those around me, despite living a calm life free of romance. Since my husband's death, I continue to feel the weight of eyes and murmuring wherever I go. However, these issues no longer affect me. My life has become quiet and even predictable, and I've become accustomed to it. I've opted to avoid love not because of a lack of options. Men of all ages, from distinguished elder gentlemen to youthful suitors barely older than my own children, have sought my attention. However, I always decline. I tell myself I'm too old for romantic games, but I know it's more than that. I've kept my emotions hidden, living with the scars of loss. The idea of opening myself up again is daunting. My nephew, Luke, called one evening as the sun sank and the sky turned orange and pink. Luke is the only child of my older sister. In his mid-30s, he oozes vitality and wears a wicked grin that suggests mischief. His towering athletic stature and confident demeanor frequently draw people's attention, particularly ladies. My sister Grace routinely calls to complain about his flirty behavior. "Lily," she would say, "this youngster is going to cause me a heart attack one day. He will not stop pursuing ladies." I'd shrug it off and tell her it was only a phase. This is a common trait among boys his age. But deep inside, I knew Luke was different. He had an intoxicating charisma that made women fall for him even if they knew better. "Hello, Aunt Lily." Luke greeted me pleasantly on the phone. "I hope I'm not bothering you." "Not at all." I responded, "What's happening? I was wondering if I may spend the weekend at your apartment." He inquired, his tone slightly unsure. The request took me off guard. Luke rarely requested such favors. With his busy work and vibrant social life, he wasn't the kind to seek refuge in my quiet, secluded home. My house is a calm refuge away from the city hubbub, with a pleasant interior and a garden out back. It's not quite the bustling setting Luke would prefer, but something about his tone made me hesitate. It was not a casual request. There was an undercurrent of fragility. After a time, I spoke with a mix of concern and tenderness in my voice. "Of sure, Luke," I responded enthusiastically. "You are always welcome here. This is your house as well." "Thank you, Aunt Lily," he responded, sounding relieved. "I will be there by Friday evening." After the call ended, I was filled with curiosity. What was he attempting to escape? Was there a romantic mishap, a disagreement with his mother, or something else entirely? Luke has always been an enigma filled with shocks and intricacies that make him tough to comprehend. I couldn't help but wonder what had brought him to seek peace here, and what discoveries the weekend could hold. As Friday neared, the hours appeared to pass faster than normal. By the time nighttime arrived, I was sitting in the living room when I heard Luke's car turn into the driveway. Standing up, I felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. When I opened the door, I saw Luke, who looked familiar, but had altered slightly. He looked effortlessly gorgeous while dressed casually in dark pants and a fitted black t-shirt that highlighted his athletic form. His smile was as warm and brilliant as ever, but his eyes showed a touch of unease, a muted strain that contrasted with his normal self-assurance. "Aunt Lily." He greeted me warmly, pulling me into a tight embrace. "You look stunning as always." I couldn't help but giggle at his charming personality, which he never seemed to lose. "Are you still as charming as ever?" I responded, smiling. "Come on in, we'll get you situated." Luke came inside, his gaze wandering over the familiar surroundings of my house. The pleasant living area, lit by the soothing glow of warm lights, appeared to welcome him. The aroma of freshly baked bread remained in the air, contributing to the cozy environment. My house had always been a sanctuary, a peaceful haven where one could exhale deeply and feel at rest. But tonight, when Luke examined the area, I could tell he was looking for his place in it, like someone trying to calm the tempest within. What had brought him here, and what did he genuinely want this weekend? I suspected I was about to find the answers. "Wow," he mumbled, relaxing into the couch with a long sigh as if a huge burden had been temporarily eased. "I have really missed this location." I chuckled softly and teased, "You act as if it has been ages since your last visit." He responded by leaning back and briefly closing his eyes. "That's how it feels." "Life has been nonstop recently, and I haven't had time to breathe." I raised an eyebrow. My interest piqued, but I chose to keep mute, hoping he would continue. Instead, he gave a slight smile and shook his head as if he was hesitant to go deeper just yet. As the evening passed, we went to the garden where a gentle breeze rustled the trees and carried the lovely aroma of flowering flowers. The tranquil setting seemed to entice him to open up. For a while, we sat quietly, the rhythmic chirping of crickets and the rustle of leaves providing a calm background. Eventually, Luke broke the silence. "Aunt Lily is someone you know." He began, his voice unnaturally low. "Sometimes I feel as if I'm stuck in an endless circle. The parties and the women, it's all exciting at first, but after a time it leaves me feeling exhausted." His confession caught me off guard. This was not the confident, carefree Luke I knew. The young man's effortless charisma seemed unshakable. Instead, he was exposing his vulnerabilities. A rush of concern washed over me as I realized how much weight he must have been carrying. After a thoughtful moment, I replied softly, "Perhaps it is time for a change, Luke." He sighed, his gaze drifting away as he looked out at the garden. Perhaps he muttered, "But it isn't that simple. Everyone expects me to keep going and stick to the path they believe I should take. It feels like moving away will disappoint them." I moved closer and rested my hand on his arm. "Luke," I said, my voice steady but full of pity, "you do not have to live up to anyone else's standards. You're still quite young. You have time to figure things out and build a life that is uniquely yours." For a long time, he stared at me intensely, his eyes searching mine for comfort. His glance conveyed an unsaid intensity that made my pulse skip unexpectedly. It left me disturbed for reasons I couldn't pinpoint. The weekend unfolded in a sequence of simple yet memorable moments. Luke, who was initially reserved, relaxed over time, and I found myself more at ease in his company than I had anticipated. His arrival turned out to be a wonderful surprise that I had not expected. Despite the warmth of our time together, there were brief moments that left me apprehensive. I'd occasionally catch him staring at me with a lingering gaze or smiling softly, almost privately. It wasn't overt yet. Those encounters had an unspoken depth to them that expressed more than words could. Luke's visit brought an unexpected energy to my home. His laughter and energy seemed to fill the previously quiet areas, and his lighthearted taunting lifted my spirits in ways I had not felt in years. It was as if his presence had eased a burden I wasn't aware I was carrying. One afternoon, as we stood side by side in the kitchen preparing veggies for supper, I couldn't help but smile at how easily he brought joy to even the most mundane duties. His hands moved quickly and expertly, yet he would occasionally pause to pop a slice of cucumber into his mouth, smirking mischievously. "You're spoiling me," I remarked with a chuckle that was half taunting, half genuine. He winked playfully, his face warm and genuine. "You deserve it, Aunt Lily," he said gently. "You do so much for everybody else. It's time someone looked after you for a change." His comments moved me deeply, warming a part of me that I had not realized had become frigid. It had been a long time since anyone had made me feel pampered, and Luke did so naturally and without fuss. Whether he was making the perfect cup of tea in the morning or fixing items around the house that I had long forgotten about, his thoughtful gestures said volumes. He made me feel seen and appreciated in a manner I hadn't felt in years, and I realized how much I missed that kind of attention. However, it wasn't just his benevolence that made an effect, that was his playful side. His upbeat demeanor was contagious, frequently taking me off surprise. He had a way of creeping up on me, shocking me with an unexpected hug or a quick kiss on the cheek or back of my neck. Each time I'd gasp in astonishment, only to hear his warm, taunting tone. "Aunt Lily, you're always quite serious. You need to relax a bit," I'd chuckle, batting him away amusingly. However, the warmth of his touch persisted for a long time, leaving me with feelings I couldn't fully define. Luke settled down next to me one evening while I was reading a book on the couch. Without hesitation, he flung his arm casually over my shoulders, bending forward to read the pages. I was so enthralled by his closeness that it felt almost overwhelming, and the warmth flowing from his body beside mine could not be ignored. "Is this a love story?" He inquired, his tone low and playful with a hint of interest that just increased my awareness of him. Something I was hesitant to admit. "That is none of your concern." I shot back, blushing with shame as I felt his intense gaze linger on me. Luke laughed, his rich, resonant laughter sending shivers down my spine. He moved closer, his fingertips lightly brushing across my arm as he adjusted his position. That little touch sent a jolt through me, and I hurriedly rose up, pretending to straighten the curtains to hide my newfound anxiety. "You're too restless," I said, trying to sound upset despite the fact that my heart was racing in my chest. Luke responded with a playful, mischievous tone and a knowing grin that made my breath catch. I didn't answer, instead turning away from him, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get over how he had unsettled me, which I hadn't expected days past, but Luke's impact was clear. The way his hands delicately brushed against mine, the lingering look in his eyes, and the casual yet highly personal character of his actions, all triggered sentiments I couldn't control. It wasn't just his words or acts. It was the way he made me feel alive and awake in a way I hadn't realized I was looking for. I found myself anticipating his taunting embraces and the electrifying charge his very presence seemed to generate late one evening, with the home unusually silent. The only sounds in the air were the subtle whir of the ceiling fan overhead and the faint chirp of crickets outside. I was alone in the kitchen putting dishes away when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to see Luke arrive. His muscular chest and arms exposed the dim light, throwing delicate shadows on his skin. His comfortable, effortless assurance made my heart race. But I couldn't understand why. "Can't sleep?" he inquired, his voice quieter than normal, with a tone that sounded almost too close. "Not really," I said, looked at him momentarily before looking away. Aware of the weight of his gaze, Luke took a leisurely step forward, closing the distance between me and leaned casually against the counter. Despite his easy posture, his eyes probed mine eagerly, waiting for me to meet him halfway. "You've been quiet today," he said, his voice tinted with anxiety. "Is everything okay?" I nodded in answer, but the tightness in my chest revealed my genuine feelings. The air between us was thick with a previously unknown tension, oppressive and nearly stifling. His gaze drew me in like a magnet, and for a moment neither of us spoke. The stillness dragged on, weighty and expectant, until he broke it with a whisper that seemed to linger in the space between us. He said, "You know Aunt Lily," as if making a silent confession. "You are the most beautiful woman I've ever known." My breath caught in my mouth, and I froze. His words struck me with an unexpected force, sending a shock of electricity through me. My heart raced, each beat deafening in the silence surrounding us. Luke stopped saying things like that. I managed to keep my words barely audible as I avoided his sight, unable to match the intensity in his eyes. "Why not?" he inquired, his tone calm yet vulnerable, with a genuineness that was impossible to reject. "This is the truth." He made another step forward, his hands slowly stretching out, giving me the opportunity to stop him, but I did not. His fingers softly moved a strand of hair away from my face, sending an uncontrollable thrill through me. "Luke, this is not," I continued, but he cut me off, his voice a faint murmur full of assurance. This is not what he inquired. My heart hammered and my thoughts raced with conflicting emotions. I opened my mouth to object to put an end to whatever was going on before it could escalate, but no words came out. I stood motionless as his hand went to my waist, the warmth of his touch seeping through my garments and drawing me closer to him. The strength in his arms was felt as they wrapped me, compelling me in ways I hadn't expected. The distance between us vanished, leaving just the quick rhythm of my heartbeat and the strong pressure of his body against mine. "Luke, we cannot," I said, my voice wavering, but I made no attempt to draw away. My body contradicted every conviction I'd held by remaining crushed against him. His lips brushed lightly on my cheek, close enough to my mouth that I could feel the warmth of his breath on my skin. That momentary touch caused my breath to catch, and for a little minute, the world seemed to halt. Time seemed suspended with the weight of unspoken emotions filling the silence. I had no idea how long we remained motionless and silent. The words that needed to be said remained unanswered, but they lingered in the air, heated and obvious. I finally broke free, my breathing unsteady and my heart beating in my ears. "Good night, Luke." I muttered, my voice unsteady and barely audible, laden with feelings I couldn't identify. He didn't try to stop me as I turned and walked away, but I could feel his gaze on me, steady and unrelenting, following my every move. It felt like he was waiting for me to turn back and reconsider, but I couldn't. Not yet. That night, I lay awake, my thoughts racing and unable to relax, replaying the scene over and over. What did I do? What happened between us? I tried to convince myself it was only a passing emotion that would pass, but deep inside I knew better. Something had changed, and there was no turning back. I didn't want to admit it, but denying it was becoming impossible. I found myself wanting for Luke's attention in ways I had never experienced before. His touch, his presence, and the way his gaze rested on me. There was something about his stare that made me feel beautiful and desired, which I hadn't felt in years. I tried to dismiss the thoughts, but they kept coming back each time, more strong and impossible to ignore. It felt like a risky game that I shouldn't be playing. Even as I told myself to stop, to put an end to it before it got too far, a part of me couldn't help but wonder what would happen if I hadn't. What if I let it happen? Luke acted as carefree and lighthearted as usual the next morning, as if nothing had changed and the previous night had not occurred. But when our gazes met, there was an unsaid understanding, a glimmer of something none of us could dismiss. It was slight, yet it remained just beneath the surface, an acknowledgement of the moment we had shared. The tension between us rose gradually and steadily over time, like a never-ending fire. Luke's hands became more confident, methodical, and his taunting comments had a weight that made my heart accelerate. Despite my efforts to resist, I found myself captivated to him. The way he made me feel, the way he reawakened desires I had long suppressed, it was overwhelming, like if something was developing between us that I couldn't dismiss. And no matter how hard I resisted, I knew it was just a matter of time before things got out of hand. The afternoon heat was oppressive, so I felt a chilly shower would be the perfect solution. My room was peaceful, interrupted only by the faint buzz of faraway sounds. Sunlight flowed through the window, painting delicate patterns on the walls and creating a surreal atmosphere. I had just slid out of my clothing, letting them fall to the ground, and wrapped myself in a nice white towel. Its cold fabric felt nice against my skin as I clutched it close. My hair was casually tied back with a few strands framing my face, contributing to the inadvertent ease of the situation. I was about to go to the bathroom when I realized I had left my phone on the coffee table in the living room. It did not feel urgent. The phone had been ringing intermittently with nothing urgent. It could wait. But just as I was ready to turn the bathroom knob, I heard soft, methodical footfall outside my door. The sound ceased, followed by a cautious knock. Aunt Lily Luke's voice came from the opposite side. Before I could react, the door cracked open and he appeared in the doorway clutching my phone. His eyes met mine, and for a brief moment, he appeared surprised. "Your phone has been—" He began, but his words drifted off as his gaze settled on me. I stood there, wrapped only in a towel, my skin moist from the shower. The moisture from the chamber clung to my bare shoulders, making them shimmer slightly. His expression changed, and his eyes widened as surprise dawned on his face. For a heartbeat, he froze. His mouth opened as if to continue speaking, but no words emerged. At that point, my pulse increased, and my heart raced in my chest. The room, which had been spacious only seconds before, suddenly appeared to close in the air, becoming heavier with each passing second. "Luke," I mumbled, barely audible but enough to shatter the hush. My throat clenched, and I couldn't utter anything else. Before I could grasp what was going on, Luke approached me. His movements were rapid and deliberate, and before I could respond, he was standing immediately in front of me. His muscular hands cradled my face tenderly, solid yet sensitive. His fingertips traced the line of my jaw, while his gaze fixed on mine filled with a mix of trepidation and something deeper, something I couldn't identify. "Aunt Lily, I can't keep this from you any longer." He said, his voice low and shaking from raw passion. He kissed me without saying another word. The kiss was not what I expected. It was electric, and the intensity left me breathless. His lips, soft yet insistent, pressed against mine with a searing tenderness that I couldn't resist. For a time, I stood transfixed, astonished, and unable to react. My mind fighting to cope with the emotional maelstrom, but when his hand slid from my waist, bringing me closer, something inside me shifted. Something had been dormant for far too long. There was a hunger. Until that moment, I had no idea that an aching yearning remained within me. "Luke," I whispered, moving away just enough to speak, but before I could continue, his lips returned to mine, silencing me with another kiss. This one is deeper and more urgent. The intensity of the moment overwhelmed us, and the towel slid slightly beneath the weight of our motions. I instinctively grasped it closer, but Luke's hands were already there, strong and firm, holding me, as if I were something valuable, something he had been waiting for. "I've wanted this for so long." He admitted, his voice thick with longing and genuine sorrow. His words made me tremble, their weight flowing over me like a wave. My instincts took control, so I didn't have time to overthink things. My arms reached up and wrapped around his neck, bringing him closer. Our bodies fit together so naturally, it surprised me. I kissed him back, the intensity, taking me by surprise as if this moment had been boiling beneath the surface for years. The formerly calm afternoon light suddenly burned with nearly excruciating heat, emphasizing the need of our connection. Time seemed to extend, and the world outside vanished, leaving only the two of us in this spontaneous, forbidden intimacy. My towel eventually fell on the floor, forgotten in the intensity of the moment. "Lily," he muttered, his voice heavy with reverence, his eyes fastened on mine with such intensity that my breath faltered. His fingertips traced the contours of my body with a reverent care, as if he wanted to memorize every curve, an inch. Each touch was deliberate and sensitive, full of calm intensity. I understood what we were doing was harmful and should not be allowed. A voice inside me cried for us to halt and go away before we passed an irreparable border. But in that instant, all reasoning and restraint vanished. All I could feel was the raw, irrefutable sensation of being fully alive. It was a sensation that made me feel seen, adored, and wanted in a manner I hadn't felt in years. Luke held me as if I were fragile, his hands warm and steady as they slid down my back, tracing every shape with affection that made me shudder. My body automatically responded to his touch, causing sensations I had not expected. His lips brushed delicately on my neck, long enough to send waves of fire through me, making me tremble. "Lily," he said, his voice low and wavering, and the intimacy made my heart rush. "You're stunningly gorgeous. I have never seen someone like you." He whispered my name with such care that my heart skipped a beat. I blushed as I met his intense and unwavering look, which was packed with emotions that left me breathless. Slowly he leaned in again, catching my lips in a deeper kiss, packed with unspoken promises and a need we both seemed to feel. As the kiss progressed, Luke's hands slid across my arms, shoulders, and waist. His touch was both gentle and intentional, drawing me closer into his embrace as if he didn't want to let go. The feel of his body pushed against mine, his steady heartbeat reverberating through me, anchored us in this shared moment. "Luke," I muttered, my voice quivering with the weight of my emotions, but he silenced me with another more intense kiss, as if he couldn't bear to let go. His lips slid against mine with such assurance that I lost my breath. One of his hands caressed my face, his thumb gently stroking over my skin as his eyes focused on mine, filled with tenderness and astonishment. "I've dreamed of this," he said, his voice husky with emotion. "Holding you and being near to you means more to me than you could ever know." His genuine and vulnerable words sparked a rush of longing in me, revealing emotions I had not aware I had been hiding. My shaking fingers found their way to his jaw, following its outline, while I marveled at how real and substantial he felt. It was as if he could fill the void I hadn't dared to admit previously. I didn't think I'd ever feel this way again. I said, my voice quivering with the weight of my vulnerability. "You deserve it," Luke replied firmly, leaving no space for question. "You deserve to be loved, to feel wanted, and to know you're valued. Lily, you deserve it all." His words wrapped around me like a promise, and in that moment I felt ready to let go of everything that was keeping me back. The experience felt almost surreal, as if we were suspended in a place where nothing else mattered. The golden afternoon sunlight flowed through the window, casting a warm glow over us and heightening the romance of the occasion. "Are you okay?" Luke inquired quietly, his voice mild, his eyes scanning me for any signs of doubt or reluctance. He appeared to be waiting for some type of reassurance, as if he knew the torrent of emotions raging between us. "I don't know," I admitted honestly, my voice softer and more vulnerable. "But I do not regret it at all." His smile was warm and soothing as he reached up to brush a stray lock of hair away from my face. His touch was both comfortable and compassionate. He replied simply, "Neither do I," with an unspoken promise of more to come. We lay together for a while, forgetting about the rest of the world. The quietness between us had a peaceful ease about it, as if nothing else mattered except our connection. However, as the afternoon light faded, a transformation occurred within me. The truth of what had just transpired came into my mind, disrupting the peace that had engulfed me. Later that evening, as the sun dropped below the horizon, I found myself in the garden. The cold evening breeze caressed against my skin, leaving a faint aroma of flowering flowers. I perched on the edge of a stone bench, my thoughts racing as I tried to make sense of everything. What exactly did this mean for us? Had we crossed an uncrossable line? Could things ever return to normal? Or had something basic about our relationship altered forever? As I sat there, lost in concentration, Luke softly approached. His steady and calming presence stood in stark contrast to the emotional maelstrom I had been experiencing all day. Despite his relaxing air, his closeness rekindled the sentiments I had been working so hard to conceal. Aunt Lily, Luke, said, his voice low but firm, reflecting a blend of gentleness and firmness. I realize this is complicated, but I have no regrets about today. Most importantly, I do not want this to end here, not like this. I turned to face him, my heart heavy with internal struggle, desire, perplexity, remorse, an unmistakable longing. His remarks, despite their calm tone, sent a shiver down my spine. "Luke, this isn't just complicated. It's wrong," I blurted out before I could stop myself. His look was unwavering, and the fire in his eyes made it apparent he was not about to back down. Why, he challenged in a forceful tone. Because of what people may say, because of the age difference between us, I paused, attempting to steady my breathing. The truth was that it didn't matter what others thought or our ages. It was not one of the things I should have been worrying about. "No," I muttered. "None of this matters to me. What counts is how I feel about you, which is what makes this so difficult to process." His remarks struck a deep chord with me, hitting a place I couldn't quite articulate. He was being open, even vulnerable, and the sincerity in his eyes was clear. I wanted to trust him and follow him wherever this odd and unknown route led, but an underlying murky anxiety kept me back. Fear of being judged, of losing something important, and of giving up control. Days passed, yet the tension between us remained. If anything, it grew stronger, filling every place we shared. Luke was always patient with me and gave me the time I needed. However, he made it clear that his feelings had not altered. He didn't push, yet he didn't back away. Despite my efforts to keep my distance and suppress the building emotions within me, I couldn't resist the tug I felt whenever he was near. That earlier moment, that palpable fire between us, had caused a shift. I felt it in every fiber of my being, in the way the air appeared to vibrate when he got close. I wasn't sure if I had the fortitude to address it, accept it, or if fear would eventually win and separate us forever. That evening, the air felt thick with everything left unsaid, so I couldn't concentrate on anything else. I sat on the couch, trying to divert myself with the TV, but my mind kept returning to him. To us, I didn't hear him approaching, but I could feel his presence before his smooth voice broke the silence. "Aunt Lily," he murmured hesitantly, his voice tinged with both apprehension and quiet determination. I looked up to see him standing there, his face open and vulnerable, but characterized by underlying strength. His gaze fixed on me as if looking for something. Perhaps reassurance, maybe understanding. Without saying anything, he walked to sit next to me, and the distance between us vanished in an instant. I could feel the heat of his body radiating through me like a slow-burning fire. Luke acknowledged. "I can't keep pretending." His voice was low but firm. "I can't pretend nothing happened because all I can think about is you." His words hung in the air, weighing heavily on me and tightening my chest. He kept his gaze fixed on me, waiting for me to say something. But all I could do was stare back at him, overwhelmed by emotions I still didn't entirely grasp. "Luke, this isn't easy for me." I eventually admitted, my voice quivering slightly. "I've lived my life with such care and caution, and everything now feels so different and overwhelming." His demeanor softened, and he gave me a warm, sympathetic glance. "Perhaps it's time for something else." He spoke slowly, his tone soothing and encouraging, extending for my hand, his fingers wrapping around mine, their warmth grounding me in ways I hadn't expected. I fixed my focus on him, not as the charming young man I'd always known, but as someone who truly cared about me. Not just as family, not just as his aunt, but as a woman. He saw me for everything I was and might be. Something within me altered at that moment, bringing about a modest but undeniable alteration. Without thinking, I leaned toward him, drawn by an irresistible force, closing the short gap between us. My lips met his in a cautious kiss that began light and uncertain, then grew as the world around us faded. His hands moved to cradle my face, his thumbs delicately brushing over my cheeks, sending shivers down my spine. That kiss represented more than just an action. It was a statement of everything we hadn't said, a vow we both knew, without saying. He kissed me, as if I were the only one who cared, the center of his universe. When we eventually parted ways, breathless and wide-eyed, I noticed the intensity in his eyes, a glance so profound it shot a rush through me. Everything about our relationship altered after that. There was no going back, no pretending everything was the same. Luke and I discovered methods to spend quiet, private moments together where time seemed to slow down. Whether we were laughing together in the kitchen while cooking, strolling around the garden, or simply sitting on the couch, the world outside drifted away. Luke's attentiveness shined through in a variety of ways, both large and small. He would surprise me with flowers from the garden, their rich hues lightening the otherwise peaceful rhythm of our days. He left charming handwritten messages in unexpected locations, like on the kitchen counter or tucked into the pages of my book, and they always appeared when I needed them. When we were alone, his hand would naturally find mine, his fingers interlocking as if he were hanging on to something he never wanted to lose. Luke looked to me one evening as we sat outside under a starry sky. His expression was contemplative and solemn. The night air was cold, but his presence beside me provided a warmth that penetrated my core. "I need you to know something." He spoke, his voice steady and full of honest emotion. "I am not going anywhere. Whatever happens, whatever problems we face, I'm here. I am with you." Tears welled in my eyes as the weight of his words hit home, affecting something deep within me. I stretched for his hand and gripped it strongly. "Luke, you've brought a lot of brightness back to my life. I don't know what I'd do without you," I said, my voice heavy with passion. His smile was gentle and loving, and he took me into his arms. "You'll never find out," he assured, clutching me close. In that moment, locked in his embrace, I realized we were in this together. Whatever the future contained, we had each other, and that was enough. Our love evolved into something extremely intimate, a link that we treasured and nurtured. It didn't matter if the rest of the world never fully understood what we had shared. What important was the comfort we found in each other, the silent solace of quiet moments shared. Luke had reignited a light within me that I had assumed had long ago died. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to hope and believe in happiness again. In his hug, I discovered a sweet and powerful love, one that was uniquely ours, one that we would protect and nurture.